And welcome back to Atheists on Air Beyond the Trailer Park. Tonight we are going to talk about Scientology and other creepy cults. And with me tonight, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Beth.
Hi, guys.
Good to see everybody. And Beth, could you please introduce our wonderful guest for us?
I will as soon as I pull it up. Can you stall? We got talking and I forgot.
That's all right.
Yeah. With us is Rob Robertson. He's a friend of mine. I've known Rob for, about 2 years now?
Oh, yeah.
And he is a former Scientologist who left in '95, Rob, am I right?
Yep.
And he has, in the intermittent years, he started a website called World Cult Watch, where he not only follows Scientology and their bullshit, but he also follows other cults within the world that are causing havoc. He also has started, help me on your second website, Rob, I forgot.
It's the Free World Project.
Yes.
And it's freeworldproject.com.
Okay. And I will be posting the links in our group page, so don't fret. But Rob, why don't you go ahead and take it from there, since I was totally unprepared and forgot to pull up your bio.
Yeah, please tell us about yourself, Robert.
Okay. Well, I actually started off in Scientology. I was living in a little town in California called Victorville, and it's out in the desert. And I was looking for a job, and in the newspaper it said bookseller wanted. So I just went in and said, okay, what's the gig? And they go, well, you just go out on the streets, go to swap meets, go here, go there, just sell books, And what book am I going to be selling? Dianetics. Well, okay, so what's Dianetics? Well, it's like this really great thing, it's like the modern science of mental health, it does. You don't have to go to psychiatrists or psychologists. Just read this book, Well, maybe I ought to buy the book, But I read it, and parts of it made sense to me, and parts of it didn't. I figured, the more I studied, the more it would make sense to me. But the thing was, I was really good at selling the books. I was kind of good at getting people in, and so this little mission in excuse me, in Hesperia, which is right next to Victorville, hired me on as their public executive secretary, which means you're responsible for getting new people in. And I was there for about 6 months, and then they transferred me to the Scientology organization in Las Vegas, where I spent several years as the public executive secretary there. And then my last little bit in Scientology, I was the executive director of the Las Vegas organization.
So you would say then that it would kind of was happenstance that you fell into Scientology. It was part of a job. It wasn't like you were looking for answers or searching for something to believe in. You just kind of happened to fall into it.
I was not at that point in my life looking for something to believe in. I was looking to make a few bucks. That's all.
Well, you picked a good person to follow, considering if you wanted to make money, start a religion.
The funny thing about it is they tell you that, if you want to go out and make money, that you should take this little course or that little course, and the more aware you become, the more able you are to make more money. But what they don't tell you is any money that you make is going to go back to them, because they want more and more from you. There are people that have spent literally millions of dollars on Scientology.
Yeah, and to me, with any of the, I'll say, bigger religions, not so much the smaller, obscure ones that still do a lot of harm, it comes down to money.
It does.
You know, and I think I don't know if it was in one of our talks prior, and just so people know, I've known Rob for 2 years, and so we talk back and forth quite a bit, and we also share blog posts and stuff. But you had said one time, or it might have been in your bio, I don't remember which, but something about you came to believe in L. Ron Hubbard's message of saving the world. Now, I've heard that and read that in numerous accounts of different people that have left various cults. Diane Benscotter comes to mind. She was with the Moonies. Steve Hansen said the same thing when he left the Moonies. So
you can go all the way back.
It?
You can go all the way back to like David Berg, the one that started Children of God cult. You know, the one that abused all those kids. It's the same thing. You know, it's like you develop a message that's gonna hook people, and I want probably some of the smartest people I know are atheists, and so I want some of the most intelligent people in the world have gotten hooked up in cults.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the higher a person's IQ is, the more responsible they feel for their fellow man.
Yes.
And you really have to watch out.
Yeah.
I mean, you look back in the 1930s, how many intelligent Americans got hooked into communism for the same reason. You know, it's this save the world thing that we have, and it's still the biggest hook there is.
Yeah.
What can you give us like a basic idea of how L. Ron Hubbard thought he could save the world with his stuff?
Okay. From my point of view,
sure.
L. Ron Hubbard never thought that he could save the world.
True. He wanted to make money, I believe.
Well, from my point of view, it was a con from the word go.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even get Dianetic therapy called auditing, and actually Scientology auditing, which is an auditor is a person who listens. Okay, but if you actually look at the technique of auditing, all it is hypnosis plus some Freudian therapy. And that's all it is.
So the concept was then by, quote, improving people, that was sort of how they thought they could save the world. Does that kind of jive?
Well, yeah. What Hubbard said was, if you erase the reactive mind, then all of a person's thoughts would just be analytical.
That sounds so much like creating automatons.
It does.
Eliminate the reactive mind. Well, if you take that away, you end up with...
all you have is the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And yes, that type of stuff is used. Our military is a good example, because if you get down to the nitty-gritty, that's why they all wear the same uniform. That's why within the first week of boot camp, for the men, your hair is shaved off. Glasses, I know anybody that's in the military, if you wear glasses, you get the old horn-rimmed, ugly-looking things. It's so there's no individuality, and that sounds like what Hubbard wanted to do, is take away a person's individuality. Is that right, Rob?
It is. It is. And if you look at the military model, it's based on that. You know,
Hmm.
you break down the individuality.
Yeah. And
You
then you
know,
build up the team.
yeah, and it's the same thing. You know, when Hubbard created the Sea Organization, which is their paramilitary elite group, uh, which runs Scientology.
Hmm.
Uh, he did it on a military model. As a matter of fact, one of his punishments on the ship, where he actually had his sea organization, was overboarding. You know, like walking the plank. You know,
Wow.
yeah. You- Men, women, young people, it didn't matter. You know, if they committed some kind of crime, which could actually mean not getting a communication to Ron. You know, uh, they could be overboarded for that.
It was my understanding that they had the Sea Org on a ship so that it could stay in international waters and not be harassed by any one government. Is that accurate?
at at the time, L. Ron Hubbard was under investigation in the United States. In France, he had already been convicted in absentia for fraud and malpractice of medicine. And so, yeah, there were governments looking for him, so he just on into the water. But he didn't talk about that. What he talked about was using his technology so that he could remember his past lives and going to these places where he had had past lives and looking for treasure troves that he may have buried.
So, in Scientology, what is the ultimate goal?
Well, the top level of Scientology is called OT8. That means Operating Thetan 8. And a Thetan is a spiritual being. It's like the soul. But he didn't want that to be, you know, confused with a Christian soul or a Buddhist soul or whatever. So he just made up his own word, Thetan, which is the theta symbol is Greek for thought. So see, it just makes this nice on and on and on. Okay, so the top level of OT8, and there are several hundred now OT8s running around the planet, and the top level was supposed to be the ability to affect matter, energy, space, and time on all levels, both subjective and objective. Which means that, you know, you could actually command an ashtray to stand up and dance, and it would. But
Wow.
we've never seen an OT8 be able to do that. And I even made a challenge on my website to David Miscavige personally, which they never answered. You know,
Funny that.
to bring out their 10 best OT8s to a park of my choosing and have them together try to lift this ashtray with their minds. And if they could do that, I would shut up about Scientology forever. I would even admit I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Deb and I are in agreement on that one. I haven't seen telecasts yet in my 50 years, but
if you just take the donations that it takes to do all the courses and all the auditing to get to OT8, you're looking at $500,000.
That's scary.
So all these OT8s running around, that were supposed to have this great ability to do that, you've been ripped off.
Well, you think if you could do something like that, you could have made your, hundreds of thousands of dollars back in a blink of an eye.
That's what they tell you.
Mm-hmm.
That you go, man, I can't do this next level. My credit cards are maxed, But if you do this next level, you're going to be that more able, and you're going to be able to bring in it's like the Jesus thing, You will be, tenfold and
prosperity gospel.
Give me a break.
Yeah, Joel Osteen and his prosperity.
It is. It's just the prosperity. Hey, are you listening, Joel Osteen? You're doing it wrong.
So a little bit of the story too, because I'm marginally familiar with it. And the Thetans, there's a story with somebody named Xenu, and there's a volcano or something.
Yeah, you don't want to listen to that, because if you're exposed to the OT3 data before you're ready, you're going to get pneumonia and die.
Well, I was reading a bit about that. You have a wonderful article on your website talking about how the Scientologists use mind control techniques with their new recruits, and one of the concepts on there, and I forgive me, the exact term escapes me, but the idea of a gradient of learning, or is that the term gradient?
Everything's done in a gradient in Scientology.
Right. What stuck out for me when I was reading that is I've also spent some time reading about Mormonism, and they have the exact same tenet. They call it milk before meat.
Right. In the Mormon Church, until you've actually been invited to temple, you're not gonna know about the magic underwear.
Well, I do.
Well, yeah. Now, as a matter of fact, you can't deny. When half the world knows what goes on, you can't. Well, unless you're the president of the United States, you can't deny it. Or David Miscavige.
Yeah, and for anybody watching, David Miscavige is the current leader of Scientology. He replaced. Was he around during L. Ron Hubbard, or was there someone in between?
He was personally groomed by L. Ron Hubbard to be the Commodore's messenger. Although, according to the paperwork, he was not supposed to take over the church, but it was. He did, and he did it probably illegally.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure he's going to pay. But and I hope there are some Scientologists listening. I really do. Even OSA members, it's like, please listen, because he is single-handed. If you're a true Scientologist, he is single-handedly destroying your church. L. Ron Hubbard wanted a membership of Scientologists. He called it the HASI, H-A-S-I, which was the Hubbard Associated Scientologists International. And the top price for that, for a lifetime membership, was not supposed to be any more than $35.
What is it now?
Well, David Miscavige, one of the first things David Miscavige did when he took over was to institute the International Association of Scientologists. Which was against what Ron said. Ron said the only full worldwide group was supposed to be the HASI. So when David Miscavige started the International Association of Scientologists, he committed an illegal act as far as L. Ron Hubbard would have been concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, for just a lifetime membership, when I was in, it was $2,000. But the thing is, now, anybody that goes to the higher orgs for higher level of training and auditing, every time they go in, they have to duck the regs that are trying to get them to give more and more and more to the International Association of Scientologists, which now, and the only person that has access to that money is David Miscavige, and now it's over $1 billion in reserves.
Wow.
That's insane. But, you know, they've driven it towards the really wealthy. You know, we get the cliche of Tom Cruise and John Travolta and all those in the Will Smith crowd, and you know, they've targeted the right people as far as money goes. I can say that.
You know, Will Smith. I think Will Smith is going to catch on.
Mm-hmm.
They hooked him on the educational thing. He actually donated a lot of his own money to start a school that was based on L. Ron Hubbard's educational technology.
I
was reading about that, yeah.
Yeah, it's called Study Tech. You want to fill us in on that?
That school has now gone broke.
This is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he'll catch on. I've kind of lost hope for Tom Cruise. I hope I'm wrong. But
I've seen videos of Tom Cruise. There was one that was leaked on YouTube 2 or 3 years ago where he was receiving some kind of Lifetime Achievement Award from the Scientologists. And I watched that and I'm like, that guy is nuts. He is just nuts.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was going to bring that up. He, in part of that video where he talks about if he's driving past an accident, and he has to stop because he knows that he's the only one that can do it. I'm sorry, Tom. I want a paramedic.
Yeah.
I don't want your touch assist. I don't want you to tell me, look at that tree, look at that branch.
Is he gonna make? He's gonna make my ashtray dance.
You know, no. I want somebody that knows how to bandage my broken elbow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think what did it for me, specifically with Tom Cruise, is when he had his Oprah couch jumping incident. And in that same interview, was it Christy Brinkley he bashed?
No,
because
Brooke Shields, wasn't it?
Brooke Shields, yes.
Yeah, it was
one of the. I get those two confused all the time.
It was Brooke Shields. And
wasn't that the postpartum depression, or was it just depression? I can't remember which.
It was postpartum depression.
Yeah. Yeah, I lost all well, not that I liked him that much to begin with, but I really lost all respect for him in that regard. And, you know, part of it being that mental health issues is one of my big canards, you know, being bipolar. So anybody that, you know, goes that route and basically tells somebody, oh, pull it up by the bootstraps, you know, and, you know, my religion, or I have all the answers, you know, this is what you need. It's like,
oh, Beth, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I'm going to tell you something right now.
Go for it.
Any religion that tells you that they are the only one that has the answers, I'm sorry, that's a cult.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned.
Agreed.
Well, and that brings me to a question, and you and I have touched on this in the past. So, what's your definition of a cult?
My definition is not the dictionary definition.
Yes, I knew that.
My definition of a cult is any group that tries to force their belief on others is a cult. You know, if if you can't look around for yourself without being in trouble with your masters, then you're in a cult.
Hmm.
You know, it's like, and you, okay, you OT8s out there, how powerful do you have to be before you're allowed to look on the internet about your church?
That is an excellent point.
And they call that the road to total freedom? I don't think so.
So even when they've reached the pinnacle of the religion, they are counseled to stay away from any contrary information.
To the point of disconnecting from their family if their family happens to be anti-Scientology.
Wow. So they have
I just spent $3 million to be told that I can't talk to my sister anymore.
yeah.
Now that's a form of shunning, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, it was kind of
Yeah.
a rhetorical question. And the reason I bring it up, the article you sent me today, is that what Lori's going through?
Yeah. Lori Hodgins has been going through this for through several years now. She at first left the Church of Scientology because she did not agree with David Miscavige's policies. And at that point in her life, she still believed in L. Ron Hubbard, and she was going to go the independent route. And she went to Marty Rathbun's house and was getting some counseling from him. And some of OSA's spies took pictures of her there, and it got back, and she was declared a suppressive person, which is the same thing as excommunication. The same
Okay, now,
exactly.
you mentioned independent.
Yeah.
There are technically, for lack of a better word, two branches of Scientology, aren't there?
Right.
Can you explain that? Because people might not be aware of that.
The independent Scientologists exist outside of corporate Scientology. They're people who believe that Scientology works, but that it costs too much inside the Church of Scientology, and they believe that David Miscavige is the devil. And without looking at the originator of what caused David, and I have to defend David Miscavige a little bit here. David Miscavige would not be the person that he is today without L. Ron Hubbard.
Mm-hmm.
David Miscavige was brought up in the Church of Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
David Miscavige is a second-generation Scientologist, so that's all he knows.
Yeah.
Is the writings of L. Ron Hubbard. He doesn't know the outside world. If David Miscavige had to survive on the outside world, he couldn't do it.
I was going to ask you that, and see, that's what's scary. In fact, I briefly saw a headline. And I don't know how recent the article was, and they were talking about the second generation of the not the Moonies, Transcendental Meditation, Hare Krishnas. And the second generation is now kind of, because, it was the 70s when Hare Krishna really took off here in the United States. And they're talking about how now these kids are, 20s and 30s, and are any of them actually surviving? So you have somebody like Miscavige who, if he had it, like you said, had to go out in the real world, he probably wouldn't be able to, and that's basically the gist of the article on the Hare Krishna. I didn't save that one. I probably should have. How did I think of it?
Yeah. Without that $1 billion, David Miscavige would not be able to probably get a job.
Yeah, because what would he have any, experience doing? other than talking about Scientology.
Yeah, I was the leader of a cult.
Yep.
Okay, here's a question for you, Rob. And you know my interest in the Quiverful movement, aka 19 Kids and Counting. Would you say that's something that the kids of the Duggars are going through? Like what Vince Gavage is?
To the effect that, okay, in Scientology, what you do is, if you've got kids, this is recommended that when your kids turn like 13, they should have already been audited to the point of clear. They should be schooled in Scientology schools, if at all possible, and then you should sign a homeschooling thing when they turn about 13. But really, like if you put your kids like in the Sea Org at 13, they may get about an hour of regular schooling a week, and the rest will be Scientology schooling.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, it's almost identical.
It is. It is.
And that tells us a lot about Quiverful.
Well, you know, you look at the Quiverful movement. The best example of that, if you want to see what goes on, is watch the movie Jesus Camp.
Yes. That's one of our favorite references.
Yeah, if you want to get your heart broke, watch Jesus Camp. You know, and actually, oh man, I'm telling you, I sat and cried the first time I watched Jesus Camp.
So did I, but probably for different reasons.
Every time, you know, they would do a close up of those kids. You know, you look at their eyes and you look at their faces, and you God damn them.
Yeah.
Well, it's like that video that came out last year about the group in Tennessee, the Rose of Sharon, basically identical to Jesus Camp scenario, and it caused quite a kerfuffle on the internet, and I posted quite a bit about it as far as, you know, and bringing in the whole Jesus Camp thing. And I think for me, when I watched that movie, it was like, oh, fuck, I did that to people. Although not quite to that extreme.
Yeah.
That was one of my confessions on AOA one time, and it was like, that realization about made me puke.
Well, you know, like, one of the reasons that I do what I do now is because of that. You know, I got so many people into Scientology. You know, it's like, man, I got a lot of karma to make up for. You know.
Quick thing to clarify too. You mentioned auditing children until they went clear. Could you tell us what being clear means?
Being clear was supposed to be having your reactive mind wiped out. You know, it was supposed to be. You were supposed to be able to like remember everything. Not have to wear glasses, you know, because wearing glasses is just an inability to confront the real world, you know.
Aha. So if I went to Scientology, I could get rid of my contacts and I would be able to see far away than this.
Yeah. Yeah, the funny thing is I've actually seen OT8s wearing glasses. So.
And now,
how do they explain that?
They don't. And, you know, it's like if you went, you know, if you were OT8 and you went in and you go, okay, so why am I still wearing glasses? And it's your fault. You know, you did something wrong in your auditing, and you have to go back and retrain, and at your own cost, at full price.
Of course.
And that is so like what you see within, specifically, I mean, I'm more familiar obviously with Christianity than any of the other religions, but, you know, when good things or bad things happen to good people, oh, they must have done something wrong.
Yeah.
Or they're in that state because of something they did. They didn't pray enough. They didn't go to church enough. They didn't study the Bible enough. I mean, it's
Okay.
so.
Yeah. Okay, and that's fine. And this is specific to the thing that's happened in Oregon recently and what's happening in Idaho right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, the 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 church that
Faith healing.
yeah.
Yeah.
In Oregon, we finally passed a law that, if your kid dies because of faith healing, you're going to jail.
Mhm.
You're actually going down for manslaughter. And we
Yeah.
actually have two couples that are in prison now because of that. But in Idaho,
Thanks for that.
they haven't passed that law. And the same group of people are burying kids at least once every few days. And if you want to pray away your own disease and you're an adult, go for it. I don't need you on planet Earth anyway.
Mhm.
But don't do that to kids that don't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Take
Now this
your
is going. Didn't mean to
take your
interrupt.
kids to the doctor, and the same goes
Yeah.
for Scientologists.
So
Mhm.
are they as anti-medicine, like in general, as they are medication and therapy per se? Like, would they say, don't go to the emergency room, go get an audit?
They're sneaky bastards about this. They will tell you that if you have a physical ailment, that you need to go to a doctor, but at the same time, you're going to go to the ethics officer
Mhm.
because somehow you have pulled this in on yourself,
Yeah.
and it's always an out ethics situation that made you sick.
Okay, we have
Gotcha.
a question from chat, and this is going back a little bit. It's from Krissa, and then she goes, I hear bits and pieces about Scientology isolating members from the world and their previous lives. Do you know any more about to what extent this actually goes on? And we did kind of touch on the shunning and the quote excommunication, but how widespread is that?
They don't want you in the real world at all. Now, L. Ron Hubbard wrote a lot about how you'll be able to affect the real world, but it's like the Mormons. You're never going to see one Scientologist out there pitching Scientology without another one standing close by.
Mhm.
Uh, like old Soviet Russia, it's like you're going to have your handler there, and all the way up to the stars. Tom Cruise, John Travolta, Kirstie Alley, they've all got their handlers. And again, you've spent millions and millions of dollars, and you're supposed to be free, and yet you've got a handler. You need a handler.
Well, look at the reaction to Leah Remini when she left. Kirstie Alley specifically, she really freaking slammed her.
Yeah, it's not just Kirstie Alley. It's like all of her Scientology friends disconnected from her.
Yeah.
Lisa Marie Presley got it a little bit easier because at first she didn't come out against Scientology,
Right.
Against David Miscavige. She did a couple of songs that if you listen to the songs and you know Scientology policy, you know that she's talking about Scientology. But other than that, like most people wouldn't have known until it actually got out that that's what she was talking about.
And I think what's really sad in a way is that the celebrities who leave Scientology, they obviously have the money, they obviously have the financial support of, to be able to almost leave seamlessly. But then
Right.
you get people like you, Lori Hodgkins, and not to slight either one of you, no names, so to speak. I mean,
Right.
how do these so-called no names, and I don't use that as a slight in any way, I'm just drawing a blank on other names that you and I have discussed in the past about, ATEC. He was another one that left that had issues. There's a
Well,
couple other, you guys did
A-
not have the finances.
ATAC, uh, ATAC is a good writer,
Yeah.
and so he did what he did best. He wrote, and he wrote a book called A Piece of Blue Sky,
Hmm.
which is, if you're an anti-Scientologist, is one of your Bibles. Uh, it gets down and dirty, and I highly recommend John Atac's book, A Piece of Blue Sky. And these days, what he's doing, he actually re-released the book, and it's available everywhere books are sold. And he's been doing a series of articles for the Underground Bunker, which is TonyOrtega.org.
Hmm.
And that story I sent you today about
Right.
Lori is from TonyOrtega.org.
Yeah.
And Tony Ortega has never been a Scientologist, but he's been a publisher and a writer and a newsman all of his life, and he's dedicated like the last 15 or 20 years to taking down Scientology. So we have a lot to think about him, and I have to say we have a lot to think about Anonymous too.
Mm-hmm.
We would be absolutely nowhere near where we are in the fight if it hadn't been for Anonymous. And
Yeah.
the reason Anonymous took over the fight was because of that Tom Cruise video. Scientology had gotten YouTube to take the video down,
Mm-hmm.
and Anonymous got a hold of that and said, "Oh, wait a minute, we're talking about free speech here."
Yeah.
And so they went to work on it and did the very first worldwide crusade against Scientology. So,
Yeah.
thumbs up, Anonymous.
That's pretty admirable, because there are a lot of stories circulating around about some of the really vicious things that Scientology does to people that speak out against them. And I know in your own story you mentioned how when you first left it was very terrifying for you.
Actually, the most terrifying part for me was the thing that made me leave. I'm not gonna go into why I got called to Los Angeles, because it would take a lot of time, and it doesn't matter, because anybody that gets in trouble is gonna any exec that gets in trouble is going to get called to Los Angeles, and they're going to go through basically what I went through.
And we can post your story as well, because you outline all those details in your story on your website.
Right. Basically, and my security check, which is it's auditing done, but not auditing. You're on the E-meter, which is a bastardized lie detector. And you're holding these cans, which is the leads to the bastardized lie detector. And there's a reason I'm saying bastardized a lot, is because, it's a Wheatstone bridge. I mean, any sixth grader could build one. Come on. But anyway, it actually, like a Wheatstone bridge, it measures nervousness. That's all it measures. Like a galvanometer, it's like skin resistance, up and down and up and down, only the needle goes sideways on this.
Yeah, I think there's been quite a few skeptical articles.
In an auditing session, the auditor goes back and forth with the pre-clear, and asks questions and gets answers in a nice, calm tone. In a security check, what happens is they yell at you. And there's more than one person there. I had 3 people yelling at me for 9 hours straight.
Wow.
What crimes did you commit? What do you have against David Miscavige? What do you have against L. Ron Hubbard? You know, what did you do? What did you do to hurt Scientology? You know, well, as far as I knew, I didn't. You know, but
Well, yeah, and what I read from your story was that you were acting on what you thought was the best interest for the organization.
right, which is don't close down Division 6, which is the public executive secretary post.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you want new people in, right? You know, well, I guess David Miscavige didn't, because, boy, I sure got in trouble for that, you know?
Yeah.
But I was not in the Sea organization. In the Sea, there's a couple of rules to get into the Sea organization, and one of them is you can never have had LSD. And when I was a kid, I did LSD, like, more than once.
Oh, I learned something new about you, Rob. Now, how would they know that you use LSD? Not to get too personal, but does that come out in the auditing?
Well, the thing is, it's like, you know, if you're a fresh new Scientologist and you've actually had like 1 or 2 wins in session, you look at the Sea Org and you go, oh man, I'd like to be in the Sea Org, you know. It's spiffy uniforms. Oh well. But anyway, you know, then you learn what the conditions are to get into Sea Org, and you go, oh well, I took acid, I can't do that, you know. And so, but anyway, at that time, I think now to be an executive in any org, you have to be a member of Sea Org, but at that time you didn't. And so, but one of the big punishments in the Sea organization is the RPF, the Rehabilitation Project Force. And that's where they take you and they put you into some faraway place, like you've heard about the hole at Int Base, you know. It's like out in the desert.
Mm.
And they make you work like 20 hours a day and not eat right, and like eat beans and rice, you know, at 2 meals a day, and just do nothing but hard labor until they figure you've been broke and enough to join the fold again. And they threatened me with that too, even though I wasn't in the Sea Org. And I said, well, you can't do that. I'm not in the Sea Org. And they actually showed me an L. Ron Hubbard issue that basically explained that I could be sent to the RPF. You know, and basically they were telling me if I didn't toe the line, they could disappear me.
Wow. That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they meant it. You know, there wasn't a smile on their face. You know, they meant it. I know people that were stuck in cabins out in the desert, you know, with handlers that would actually hit them and do bad things to them, give them drugs, you know, even though Scientology is supposed to be anti-drug.
Of course, but when it means to an end, I guess it's okay, right?
Yeah. Slip them a Mickey Finn, you know.
Go ahead.
Which is a hypnotic drug, you know.
But speaking of drugs, this is one of my big issues. Narconon.
Narconon.
Go for it. And why do I not like Narconon? As Rob knows.
Yeah. Kirstie Alley is the international spokesperson for Narconon. because L. Ron Hubbard's techniques got her off of cocaine or whatever when she was in Hollywood.
But what exactly is it for people that don't know? I'm pretty sure everybody does. They follow
Actually, I've not heard of that, so I'm
okay.
keen to find out.
Narconon is the drug treatment division of Scientology, and the only reason for Narconon to exist is to get people off of drugs and get them into Scientology.
Ha.
Narconon is a fraud.
Yes.
So, what kind of techniques do they employ? Is it based on anything, that's proven, or are they just making shit up?
Okay, the part that they use to get people off of drugs is a little bit of nutrition, some Scientology courses, and at least 21 days of at least 6 hours a day in the sauna, taking mega doses of vitamins and niacin. When I went through the purification rundown, which is the sauna program, I was up to 3,600 milligrams of niacin every day.
Wow.
If you've never taken if you've never taken niacin in your life, here's a good experiment to do. I don't recommend it, but if you want to try it, just take 100 milligrams and pop it, and see how you feel in about 20 minutes. You're not going to feel very good. Your skin's going to burn.
Ooh.
And now imagine yourself, your skin's burning, and you're in a sauna.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
That would almost make withdrawal feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, let me stick myself with a needle, please. But
well, and that's what's so scary. Not just so much about Psi, but about any religion that says we have the cure for this or we have the cure for that, or any of the woo-woo science that that.
Right. I got to tell you something about niacin. High doses of niacin can affect your liver. But if you're a drug addict or an alcoholic, your liver's already affected.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
What could these mega doses of niacin do? They could shut your liver down. And people have actually died on the Narconon program.
Yeah, I just posted 2 links about two of the more recent stories.
Oklahoma, there are big state and federal investigations into Narconon in Oklahoma because within 3 years 6 people died.
Mm-hmm.
And so they must quash these things, because I've never heard of that in the news or anything.
Unless you follow Scientology news and you're out in the real world, you probably haven't heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Except for there's a lot of people talking about it now, so it gets out a little bit more.
Right.
Narconon is a deadly program. I don't care what anybody says. They can come after me. I don't care. It's a deadly program, and it's based not on any medical fact at all.
Yeah, it sounds pretty sketchy. Ooh. Wow.
Well, and that's one reason, Rob, why we wanted to have you on. And I've had Rob on two previous shows, or just one? I can't remember. One, but you are also on God Discussion as well, and you had your own show there. Is that this stuff needs to get out there? I mean, not just not just about Scientology, and that's where your website comes in, World Cult Watch, but it's not just Scientology pulling this crap. There are
Yeah.
other religions, there are other, I'll say cults. I do consider Christianity a cult. I do consider basically all religions to be a cult.
Me too.
I don't make a delineation. And if you really look at the breakdown of it, it is a cult. And that's what, and that's where your website's going to come in.
When I first got into the protest scene, I was basically just concerned about Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started looking around, and I got comments and private messages from people who go, well, I had that experience, but it wasn't in Scientology, And, I started looking at a lot of the sameness between one cult and another, and I'm going, man. And then, even I was almost just saying, okay, we'll just go after the quote cults. And then I started looking at these mainstream religions, and especially the prosperity cults, and the great healers. My favorite, Benny Hinn.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
Fraud.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, how many ways can you rip people off in the name of religion?
There's a lot I've found.
And then I said, okay, well, I'll just go after abusive religious people. And then I'm getting to something here. Wait. And then I started looking around at a lot of abuses. And it just doesn't have to do with religion. It has to do with how I got to where I am. Which is if we don't start taking care of our brothers and sisters and our Mother Earth, we're not going to make it to Armageddon no matter what religion you're in.
That's a very good point. Very good point.
And so that's how Free World Project started.
Okay.
And just basically what it is, it's a social network for activists.
Okay.
So far, mainly my members are spammers, but I'm hoping that it's going to take off, and I'm hoping that people will feel comfortable enough to come there and actually start participating, and if they do, it's like, it's true, it's like each one of us is just a grain of sand, but enough sand in the right parts, and that could be awful uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do. I want to make people uncomfortable, so they'll just start to look, and maybe scratch an itch, and say, "Well, this itch shouldn't happen." Especially when it comes to the abuse of children and the subjugation of women.
Absolutely. There's far too much of that going on in the name of many religions, cults, organizations, you name it.
Police officers,
Yeah.
In Florida the other day, they had another cop going down, for raping a woman on the hood of his car while he was on duty.
Oh,
You know,
wow. That's
and
crazy.
he was like, I forget what city it was, but he was like their cop of the year. You know,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I'm the
Well,
cop of the year. I can go out and rape this woman and not pay for it. Well, he's paying for it. You
Well,
know,
that's good at
but
least.
well, and that comes all down to the whole authority figure issue. When you have, whether it's pedophile priests or police officers or anybody in authority that's abusing that power, you're going to have these issues. And I think like what you said about, we keep this up and not doing something about it, we're going to, I don't have kids, so I mean, but I look at my nieces and nephews and wonder what kind of world are we going to leave them to. And I think like what Deb does, what I do, with my blog, what you do with your blog and your your Facebook groups, what Cash does with AOA and all the other numerous podcasts that are out there. To borrow from Dave Foda, who he says we all have our own tools. We all have, we each have different tools, and those tools, if we cram them all together, maybe we can make some changes.
I got to say something about that too. As far as I'm concerned, as far as acting in a Christian manner goes, I know more atheists that do that than Christians.
Absolutely. It always makes me laugh. I spend a fair bit of time debating various religious type people, and I often get the, oh, well, you can't say anything because you have no morals. And I'm like, oh, really? I bet you anything I got better morals than you do, bub. And the test, of course, with a Christian is usually, okay, well, if a quote God voice spoke to you and said, hey, you got to, kill one of your kids for me, would you do it? And, the ones that say no, it's like, well, then you're not really that into it. And the ones that do, I'm like, go check yourself in for help, like now, because you're fucked up.
Yeah.
Well, it's
I'm running as far away as I can.
it's the Abrahamic thing to do.
It is, and it's unbelievable that people would do that. And well, Beth will tell you, I end up with a lot of Muslim folk on my timelines. I do some work for a friend of mine who has a podcast reading the Quran called Quranify Me, and I attract a fair bit of Muslim traffic. And I get the guys who are like, well, it protects women when you put them in a burlap sack. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, come on, get a real brain.
You better watch out. They're going to throw a fatwa on you, Dan.
That's fine. Bring it on, man. Because I ain't putting up with that shit. I had one last week on my timeline telling me all this shit, and Beth saw that one.
I'm
going to tell you. I'm going to tell you something about this fatwa business and jihad business.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to prove your relationship to God by sneaking up behind me and throwing a bag over my head and lopping off my neck, you're a coward.
Absolutely.
You're a coward. And I don't care what kind of heaven you believe in. Heaven ain't gonna allow no cowards.
No, it's just unconscionable what some of these people will claim is good. I mean, the same person was telling me that, only Islam tells you to give money to poor people, and your society is all messed up because you don't have Islam. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, no. Oh, really? Because he was trying to tell me, well, of course, he didn't realize I was from Canada either at first, but he was trying to tell me, you're going to be so scared, and you have rapes everywhere, and people steal from you everywhere. I'm like, I could walk out my door in the middle of the night, and walk down the street, now in the summer, in a tank top and shorts, not now because there's fucking snow on the ground, but
Yeah.
I can walk down the street in a tank top and shorts in the middle of the night and not be afraid. And I live in the seedy end of town. You know, I used to work in a place where I would get off work, you know, around midnight, and there's hookers all over the place on my way home, and you know, I was never intimidated by that, and I am never scared to walk around where I live. And the thought that, you know, I need to wear a bag from head to toe to be protected, fuck you, I don't think so.
No, and that, you know, the thing is, you know, and again, here's a big lie. You know, why are all religions based on lies?
It's the snake oil thing.
You know, if you're a woman, you know, you're supposed to be protected if you wear the burqa, you know. But the thing is, and you don't get the caveat, which is you're protected from everybody but your husband.
That too,
Well,
yeah.
Speaking of the burqa, I guess now this was maybe 2 weeks ago, there was an article, and I only caught the headline and I just briefly skimmed it, but basically one of the imams, I'm not sure where, definitely Middle East, was saying that female eyes are now too sexy, and he wants to push for having the eyes also covered.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, okay, it's kind of like, I don't know if y'all have seen the meme, or the meme, I say meme, floating around Facebook. It's a beach shot, which what looks like, if you know, first glance, oh, it's a bunch of birds on the beach, and actually what it is, you know, a bunch of women in burqas.
I shared that one yesterday.
Yeah, one of my favorite memes is we have your 72 virgins, and it shows a whole bunch of nuns.
Yes. Yes.
To interject real quickly here, Dave Foda joined us in chat room, and he goes,
Hi, Dave.
He goes,
Hey, Dave.
Late to the party, but I'm here. Wanted to hear Robert's sexy voice again. So I just thought I'd relay that to you, Rob.
Gosh, thanks, Dave.
Awesome.
Now all we need to do is get Bob Beatty on.
Yeah, I thought he might have showed up tonight, but yeah, he would be a good show too. But
he would, and anytime you can get Dave Foda on, that's a good one.
Well, this is the first show he hasn't been on, so
yes,
he needed a break, I think.
Two crazy women talking in both his ear was probably a little.
Well, and the fact that he usually has us in IM every day anyway, so you know, he's probably well and sick of us by now.
Yeah, but Dave has been very instrumental in helping Deb and I get Beyond the Trailer Park off the air, as has Cash from Atheists on air, and
absolutely.
And all our listeners, is you know, Rob, I did used to do podcasting, and I don't know how many times in the last maybe 9 months, year, I've been like, I'm getting that itch. I'm getting that itch.
Yeah, I am too, and I'm probably if my old producer is not going to be able to do anything, and I haven't talked to her for a while, but I may start my own network on TalkShoe. I don't know.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Called Radio Free Earth, you know, or something like that. And
that sounds like a good project.
You know, then I'll get down and dirty, you know. It's like.
Well, like Beth said, you know, everybody's got their tools to bring to the party, and Cash always says this, you know, the more voices the better, and the more people that are out there saying this shit, and even if it's the same shit over and over, you know what, some people out there are that thick, and you need to tell it to them 500 times.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's some groups that I belong to. It's like I'll post somebody, and somebody will just come back and go, well, somebody already posted that. Well, you know, Yeah, you're right. But it needs to be said more than once. You
Yes,
know,
Exactly.
I mean, science has proved that people don't get everything that you're saying in the first pass. You need at least 7 passes.
Well, I'll tell you, I used to train adults in a call center, and my manager and I always used to joke because you teach it and you teach it and you teach it, and there's still always somebody who goes in one ear and out the other. And the joke that she always had, if I was like, oh, so and so still hasn't figured it out, and she's like, well, did you tell them 500 times yet? Because if not, you better keep saying it.
Right.
yeah.
Right. Or,
Well,
or as L. Ron Hubbard said, times through equals certainty.
Ah.
so
That's
Rob,
a
where do you see Scientology going? Is it dying, like some are saying, or
I'm I'm far from an expert. You didn't hear that.
I
Um,
beg to disagree. But continue.
not see, especially here in the United States, we got a really bad catch-22 there because Scientology is recognized as a church.
mm,
Therefore, you have the church-state issue.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the American people have a sore nose because of what happened at Ruby Ridge and what happened down in Texas with the Branch Davidians,
Mm-hmm.
where when government comes down on churches, violence happens and it turns into a really bad media circus.
Yes.
And so whenever you start investigating churches, the first thing they do is they go, you can't investigate us, we're a church, we're protected. So to actually totally get rid of Scientology, you would have to actually change the Constitution.
or
Because
it could they evolve to a point where they maybe wouldn't be considered a church anymore?
in a lot of countries, they're not considered a church.
Mm-hmm.
Countries that don't have the church-state laws, they're not considered a church. Some of them, they're not even. Well, in Russia, it's actually illegal to pass around Scientology materials now.
Yeah.
Well, at least they did something right.
Although I have an article I'll be posting later that might explain why, but it goes with Putin being more active in the church there and using them as part of his power control, which sounds really familiar.
Yeah, but you have to understand that L. Ron Hubbard hated governments too.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to take over the world. Because, well, he wanted to be the boss. And I'm glad that didn't happen. David Miscavige is never going to be the boss of the world. It's not going to happen. Scientology is going to continue to dwindle as far as new people coming in because, frankly, Miscavige is not interested in new people coming in. He's interested in bleeding the whales for as much as he can get. And
Do you think people like Travolta and Cruz will finally get it? That's exactly what he's doing.
oh, wow. You guys are not working on an FCC license, right?
No.
Okay, good. So here's my personal opinion on that. My personal opinion is that John Travolta has actually seen the light, and he's being blackmailed into staying.
I was wondering that myself too.
Tom Cruise, on the other hand, I don't think he'll ever see the light
Yeah, I
because
think he's a lost cause.
because he gets a lot of adoration, not only from Scientologists, but from David Miscavige himself. As a matter of fact, David Miscavige probably, and we're going to go back to that video where Tom is receiving the Freedom Medal of Valor Award. David Miscavige said that Tom Cruise was the most dedicated Scientologist that he knew.
Ugh.
And I look at these Sea Org people that have been living on beans and rice for 10, 15, 20 years and going out there and working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, and taking all that abuse, and still they're Scientologists, and Tom Cruise is the most dedicated Scientologist.
Yeah.
That isn't.
In
What
some
goddamn kick in the teeth.
Absolutely. I've noticed that in other religions where there are celebrity members, the celebrities tend to get more leeway with following the tenets and the rules because they're visible and they're celebrities, and whatever religion it is wants to keep that spokesperson, in the force, so they let them get away with shit.
That's right. That's why when Tom Cruise got his last divorce, he's not disconnected from Surrey.
Yeah, that makes
Do you
sense.
think that's because of her age? Because I don't remember how old she is now.
She's like 6 or 7 or something.
Do you think that because of the age, or do you think it's just they're kowtowing to him?
They're kowtowing to him.
That makes sense, because I know, like I say, I've spent more time reading about Mormonism, but there was a lot of kerfluffle when Mitt Romney was around that he was getting away with all kinds of shit, and look at people like the Osmonds who don't really follow a lot of the tenets that the rank and file Mormons would, but because they're celebrities, it's a-okay, and we'll just pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah, I always wondered if Marie wore the magic underwear.
Well, if you saw Dancing with the Stars, there's no way she wore the magic underwear, because that shit is very unsexy.
Yeah. Glenn Beck actually did a show on the magic underwear, saying, why they had to wear that, and, defending his religion down to the very last, But,
and there's,
I gotta say something, and Beth, you've heard me say this 100 times anyway. If you want to be in a religion, whatever you want to believe, it's fine with me. But, study it.
yes.
Yeah.
Study it, and you won't be.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's a big kerfluffle in the Mormon Church right now because they finally admitted that Joseph Smith was like stealing other men's wives and sleeping with 14-year-olds and all the stuff that anybody who did research knew about, but they finally got to the point where they had to admit it. And there's a lot of upheaval going on right now about that.
Yeah.
Well, what kills me about go ahead, Rob.
That, if you want a whole bunch of wives, that's good, but who the hell wants a whole bunch of mothers-in-law?
Yeah. Good point.
One living with me, and that was hell. Understatement.
Well, I guess if you're the leader of the religion, you can tell the mother-in-laws that they have to keep their mouth shut, I guess.
Right.
Or, God will come and smite them.
Right. They have to ride in the trailer.
Yeah. Exactly. My favorite part of that whole multiple wives thing is Joseph Smith claiming that, Moroni came and threatened him with a flaming sword if he didn't like marry and bone all those chicks.
You
It's
know,
like,
and see that's another thing. And it's not only the Mormons. It's like all these
mm-hmm.
revealed religions.
Yes.
Show me!
Yes.
Show
Yeah.
me the damn golden plates. Or show me
Yes.
the aliens that came down and gave you the ticket but didn't give it to me.
Yep.
Show me.
Yep.
Oh, you just lack
Well,
faith. Well,
well,
yeah, of course I lack faith because I don't have faith in thieves.
well. What kills me with that whole line of reasoning too, if you think about it, especially um, with apologetics in regards to Christianity, is that some people will say, okay, when you bring up the whole revealed religion thing, they'll be like, well, you're not a Christian, so you wouldn't understand. You don't have the quote secret code to understanding scripture. And I'm thinking, okay, so I'm an Aboriginal somewhere in Africa or Australia or the Amazon who has never been exposed to Christianity for prime example. And I come across the Bible and I start reading it. So does that mean that I can't understand it? If that's the case, then what's the point of the Bible to begin with? If not to bring you, or any sacred scripture, whether it's the Quran or the Book of Mormon, if a general layperson can't pick it up and read it and understand it to, quote, join the faith, so to speak, then the whole purpose of their books is moot.
And your God is a really shitty author.
Well, yeah, that too. But.
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, with the Mosaic religions, the Abrahamic religions. And again, it was only a subjective thing. God told me.
Yes.
Show me.
Yes.
Yep. Why isn't God telling me and him
Play
and that
me.
guy and that guy and
Play me the MP3.
yeah. Exactly.
Oh, please. And God spoke and told me to go into the land of Canaan and slay all the men, women, and children, except for if there's any virgins running around.
Those are yours.
I can grab them.
Yep.
And this is a God telling you this. I want you to go invade this land, make it yours, kill everybody off, but you can have the virgins.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it always makes me laugh because almost regardless of whatever religion is, it's only one person that ever gets to hear the special message.
Right.
And we're just supposed to believe that, you're the chosen guy and you heard it right and all of that.
And I don't know how you feel about Richard Dawkins, but I love what he said. It's like, if you're this all-powerful God, why can't you just forgive?
Yep.
Why do you need a savior to come in and die, tortured and die, in order to forgive? Just forgive. My dad was one of the most forgiving people in the world, and he forgave me for everything, and didn't expect me to, get down on my knees and pray to him or accept anything,
Yeah.
Well, and that comes down to what some people blood sacrifice. I mean, that's exactly what it is. That's what the whole religion is based on, from verse 1 to the end. It's
Yeah,
a blood sacrifice.
yeah.
And I'm sorry, maybe that's why I'm a vegetarian.
Yeah, it gets kind of messy there. I mean, I've been listening to the Thomas and the Bible podcast again, and you know, we were just in like Numbers recently, and it's just going on and on and on about, you know, kill this animal for this and so many of these animals for that,
Uh-huh.
and you think about it, and it's like, you know, that temple was just going to be like a giant abattoir, you know, like just revolving dead animals day in and day out because somebody.
It's gonna stink after a while too.
Well, yeah, because I mean, even though conveniently the priests get to eat all of the good meat, I mean, there's only so many of them, and you have, you know, a few thousand Israelites, you know, bringing their dead animals in every day, like shit. You better have a giant ass pit out the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Jamie DeWolf. He's done so much. He was never a Scientologist. He is the great grandson of L. Ron Hubbard. And
Tell everybody what he does.
he tells the truth. He's an actor and entertainer, best known for Tourette's Without Regrets, and he's a slam poet. And he actually won first prize a couple of years ago for his talk on his grandfather. You can find it all over YouTube.
I just posted it in chat if people are interested. That's his slam poetry, and I highly recommend it. It is phenomenal, and I will post the link later too.
And
well,
then
so.
This year there was a big protest in Clearwater, Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and he spoke at that, and it's on YouTube also, and I highly recommend it because he has some writings from his grandfather, which was L. Ron Hubbard Jr., who left the church back in the 50s, and he didn't have some very good things to say about his old man, including the fact that a lot of the OT levels that Ron came up with, what he would do is he would give his son drugs and then sit down and record what he was saying.
Wow. That's awful.
Yeah. So, you know, and again, I got to talk to any Scientologist that may be out there. You know, it's like, get to know the real Ron Hubbard, you know, and to any Christians out there, you know, get to know where your faith comes from.
Yeah.
Because if you're just going to blindly follow the words of some prophet, you know, you're dooming yourself.
Or if you're just going to follow whatever it is that your parents taught you, then, you know, what is that doing for you? Think for yourself.
Oh, I'm glad you hit that, Deb. Because I think Rob might know where I'm going. Hereditary religion. There's a group that both you and I follow that talks specifically to that issue.
The worldwide protest against hereditary religion last year had a really, really big listenership. I was on that too.
Yeah, we're on that, and I listened to all but 8 hours of it.
Yeah, it was a 24-hour podcast on Google and on YouTube, and we covered a lot of good stuff. But basically, it boils down to one thing. It's like religious indoctrination is child abuse.
I wholly agree.
It is. It is. And my own personal viewpoint is, even if you don't hit your kids,
Mm-hmm.
it's still child abuse, because you are putting them in an educational box,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not letting them explore the real world. And the
Well,
real world, the
go ahead.
real world outside of religion is a beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Well, and
The
that goes.
wonder, the wonder of the aurora borealis
Mm-hmm.
outside of religion is a beautiful thing. I've actually seen it, and it's like, if anything would convince me of a God, it would be that, and not the Holy Bible. Even though I know it's just electric particles and and all that, but we're all
Well,
made we're all made out of the same stuff, and we all gotta we have to recognize that, and we can't let some preacher, prophet, imam, or uh, or pope.
random nut job.
Oh, Jay-Z Knight comes to mind on Random Nut Job.
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me started on random.
Well, we can come back to random nut jobs in a minute, but what gets me is, and I've gotten this on debates a bazillion times, is how can you deny God when you look at nature and all of that? It's like, come on, I can have awe about what's around me, and I don't need a sky fairy to provide that for me. Thank you.
Again, again. And I think this is the most exciting thing in the world, is none of us know.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful thing,
It is.
because when we get old and tired like me, there's something to look forward to,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
which is what really happens, because I can't believe this trash that you put down in front of me,
Yeah.
Exactly.
because even if parts of it are true, you've loaded it with so many lies that I can't believe any of it. And that goes for the Christian church, goes for the Mormon church, it goes for the Jehovah's Witnesses, it goes for Scientology, it goes for everything. It's like, you can't convince me of anything because you started with a lie.
Exactly.
Rob, can I interrupt for a second? I know we
Mhm.
Sure.
did touch on this early in our chat, but one of our or early in our conversation, but one of our chatters was having some tech issues, and he asked about the Scientology prisons, and he was wondering, he goes, complete with razor wire. Is there any truth to that? And I know you already touched on it, but
That's unrenowned tech, high tech.
for his edification, could you re-hit that again?
The international base outside of Hemet, California, is surrounded by high iron gates with razor wire around the whole thing. And people who have gone afoul of David Miscavige that were in international management have been put into a room. It's actually two trailers put together, and it's called The Hole. That's what they called it anyway.
Ugh.
And some of them were there for like more than a year, being allowed out once a day for a shower, and the rest of the time in the desert heat and in the desert cold at night, with no heating or cooling. Sometimes being forced to play musical chairs. Uh,
Wow.
uh, Debbie Cook uh, talked about it when Scientology tried to sue her down, and she was the executive director of the Flag Land Base, which is Clearwater, Florida, the mecca of technical perfection. And she talked about being in the hole, and like one day she had defended a couple of people because they were being called gay. So David Miscavige called her gay, made her stand in a trash barrel. They were dumping ice water over her head.
Oh.
You know, she's holding a sign saying, "I'm a lesbo." You know, and they're trying to force her to say that she's a lesbian.
Wow.
The executive director of the height of Scientology.
Wow. Well, that brings up a question, too, I hadn't considered, but what is the view of Scientology on homosexuality?
L. Ron Hubbard has a tone scale which goes from -40 to +40. And homosexuality is on 1.1, which is called covert hostility. L. Ron Hubbard said that anybody below 2.0 should just be like put out to pasture
Wow.
or eliminated.
Hey now.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow, that's pretty harsh.
Yeah. Gee, it sounds
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah.
Peter La
Just
Barbiera.
figured. So,
You know, and it goes back to, you know, because a lot of the so-called right-wing religionists are doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, saying that the most outlandish things. You know, like school shootings are because gay people have been allowed to exist in the United States.
ugh,
You know, AIDS and Ebola are God's revenge against the gays.
oh yes,
It's trash.
absolutely.
It's nothing but garbage. And if you happen to be in one of those churches, me and people like me are going to find you and expose you for the frauds that you are.
Absolutely.
Well, going to that point, when I'll say series for lack of a better word, about a month or so ago, Peter La Barbiera, he's virulently anti-gay, basically came out and said that he feels like he's in Nazi Germany because of the LGBT issues. So, and you know that he is being persecuted, and he's, you know, his rights and others like him are being stomped upon, and you know all the, you know, so-called Christian persecution. So I started doing a series on my blog highlighting LGBT, not so much the issue, but cases of violence, whether it's beatings, harassment, or tragically death. My cat is pulling my microphone off my shirt. And I highlight every time, and I put his name right in the tag and says, is this what it's like to be a Jew? Because I have yet to see in the United States where any Christian has been killed because they oppose LGBT issues, but yet, almost on a daily basis, I am posting, definitely on a weekly, because sometimes I'm a little behind, on a weekly basis, articles dealing with people getting beaten or killed.
Yeah,
So.
I'm gonna tell you something about that. Do you realize that you cannot be a member of the KKK if you're an atheist?
Yes, I had heard that.
Oh yeah.
As a matter of fact, if
Can't
you're,
be black either.
yeah, well, yeah, but you have to be a Christian.
Well, they're part of the Christian identity movement.
And some of the neo skinheads and that, they make a big deal out of being, well, we're a Christian organization, you know, we're not really racist, we're just really Christian.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. America was founded on Christian values, and I'm a Christian, damn it.
Yeah.
I'll kill you if you argue with me.
Well, and the sad thing about the whole Christian identity movement is that, one, its basis is biblical. Well, according to them it is. It goes to what some consider within Christianity to be a heretical doctrine of the serpent seed.
Yeah.
And basically, which is the serpent basically fucked Eve and begat Cain, and then Adam boffed her, and that's where we get Abel from.
Yeah.
And they do it based on some really interesting mental gymnastics.
I guess.
Yeah, it's
Well, see, that begs the question, did the snake have to teach Adam what to do then afterwards? Is that how that works?
You know, there are some Gnostic sects that actually believe that Satan had to teach Adam everything, and that actually the forbidden fruit was orgasm.
Ooh, we'll have to tell Ken about that one, Beth.
Yeah.
We have a friend who runs a podcast called the Forbidden Fruit Radio Show that Beth and I tend to hang out on regularly. So
yeah, they said, you know, it's like, as long as they were just having sex, it was okay, but having sex and then having an orgasm, that was the original sin.
Well, they can take that and shove it, is all I can say. So we're
maybe we should start a religion called the Church of the Holy Orgasm or something.
I like the sound of that. I think we could do something with that.
Yeah, and actually it's been done. David Berg, I hope he rots in hell, if there is a hell. You know, that's probably the worst thing about being an atheist, is not believing in hell, because there are some people I would dearly love to send there.
I hear you.
And most of them are religious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So we got about 15 minutes yet, and I wanted to touch on, Rob, if you can throw out some of your, I guess, favorite, for lack of a better term, wacky cults that you've come across in managing your Cult Watch website. Is there anything that's particularly disturbing or whacked that you've come across lately?
The disturbing ones, and there are too many to mention, are the ones, like I said, that subjugate women and abuse children.
Right.
We in the real world are no longer going to let you get away with that. You shouldn't have gotten away with it. You know, like I said, whatever consenting adults want to do with each other, that's fine with me. You know, even if you consent to killing each other, you know, go ahead and do it. The world's too full anyway. You know, but if you abuse children, that's the worst thing in the world. And coming in a real close second is any subjugation of womankind.
Mm-hmm.
It should never be allowed. And yet there are, and I'm not just talking about Islam here, I'm talking about some good old Christian sects too that subjugate women on a daily basis. Where if a woman is beaten by her husband, that's perfectly okay, because the husband is the master of the household.
Well, that goes back to the Duggars there as well, because the Michelle, she's come out and said just recently that part of their faith is that a wife should be available for her husband to have sex anytime. And
That's right.
if your husband comes to you for sex and you don't want it, then that's too bad for you. You better do it anyway, because he's the man.
Right. That's right. And it's wrong thinking, you know. And like I said, it's a crime.
Well, and can you imagine the tailspin for those girls that, they've never even, held hands with a boy, let alone kiss one or anything, until they get married. And then the second they get married, it's just sex whenever he wants, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And
right.
And guess what? Almost if you're fertile, every time you have sex, you're going to get a baby.
Right. And that's the Christian way, as far as some of these, the dominionists are like that. Mm-hmm. And basically the Mormons are like that too.
They are, actually.
And the JWs, women should be seen and not heard,
Except when they come to my door.
The Hasidic Jews are like that.
Yes.
Women have absolutely no rights in the Hasidic Jew community, and children as well.
Well, that goes back to Love to Whore.
Mm-hmm.
Love to Whore is one of the worst.
Yeah, you and I have both posted about them. I mean, they're bebopping between two different countries to try to avoid prosecution up in Canada.
Eventually, what's going to happen with Love to Whore, and again, Canada's in that tricky church and state issue, not as hardcore as the U.S.
We don't actually have a separation clause of any sort.
But they hate to go after churches.
Yes.
Which is why Love to Whore has gotten away with all the crap that they've gotten away with so far.
I'm not familiar with that particular group. Can you just give me a quick of who that is?
They're a Hasidic community that has basically been, since they got run out of Jerusalem, in Canada. And most of their kids got taken away from them here a couple years ago. They were like hitting their kids with cattle prods and stuff like, just like spare the rod, spoil the child kind of thing,
Yeah, spoil you, buddy.
The first thing they did was they were ordered to court in, I think it was Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
And so they moved to a different jurisdiction within Canada.
Ontario.
Yeah. And even when they were ordered back, they refused, which is why the kids were actually removed from the homes.
Now they're heading to Guatemala.
Well, yeah, but things are not going too good in Guatemala either. The first village that they hit in Guatemala, they got run out of.
Oh, really? So, I'm a little behind on their news, but...
Yes. So a bunch of them have actually headed back towards Canada, but a different jurisdiction even now. So, eventually they'll get caught up. But I think what's going to happen is a lot has been revealed just within the last 2 weeks about their financial shenanigans, and I think that's what's going to end them up in trouble.
Yeah.
Is not paying the tax man.
Yeah, that'll get you just about every time.
Yeah.
The famous
So,
Kent Hovind.
yeah, you know,
Yes.
eventually, that's probably what's going to happen with the Church of Scientology. I had a guest on my World Cult Watch radio show a couple of times. His name was Mark Tordai, and he had been involved in some international money laundering in Europe for Scientology. Taking bags of money from one country to another. And
I remember that. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so that's stuff to look out for. Another thing is public awareness comes up a little bit more each day about Scientology, and eventually, people are going to start asking, well, if it's a church or a charity, which is actually what a 501c is.
Yes.
Where does the money go?
Mhm.
Yep. And
And eventually they're going to start making all of these cults start accounting for every penny. And that's when we're going to start to see some changes.
that's a big deal with the Mormon Church right now too, because they get 10% from every temple-worthy member, and they just built a billion-dollar mall in Salt Lake City that doesn't even cater to Mormon tenants.
Yeah.
You can, because they like to be, quote, modest, and you can go buy bikinis and shit at the Mormon mall.
Mhm.
My family had on my mother's side had a Mormon background until my grandfather. This is kind of a cute thing. One of the reasons why he left the Mormon Church was because of tithing, 10%.
Mm-hmm.
His father, my great grandfather, needed a new suit, and so he went and got some money and gave it to his dad. And the first thing his dad did was turn around and give 10% to the church.
Yep.
And he blew his mind. And
I
he said,
believe it.
if I had actually gone out and bought you that suit, would you have cut off one of the legs and given it to the Mormon Church? And he said, yeah, probably,
Crazy.
But that's not my main contention against the Mormon Church. My main contention is that my great-grandmother went to her grave in sadness, thinking that because my grandfather had left the church, that she would not see him in glory.
Yeah.
Oh.
She went to her grave believing that.
That is one of the worst things about that is that whole eternal family shit. In fact, I've read that they train the missionaries to target people that have recently lost loved ones because they're more susceptible to the whole, oh, you'll be with your family forever.
That's right. That's right. And you know why? Because after you actually get invited into the temple, you can actually go down into the baptismal fonts and baptize your lost loved one.
All the dead people, you got it.
Yeah.
And Frank.
And you can actually have a proxy wedding ceremony for dead people as well.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. pretty whacked.
And they got some weird space shit going on in the Mormon Church
They
too.
do Kolob and, eternal spirit mothers popping out their spirit babies. That's my idea of heaven, not.
Oh yeah, see, that's boy. I'll tell you what. That's another male chauvinist religion. You know,
Yes.
if you're a faithful male, you get to have your own planet, and if you're a faithful female, you get to be one of the wives on that planet.
Yep, and be eternally pregnant.
But you can't have your own planet.
No,
You know.
no.
But plus, like every time you get laid, you get pregnant, and that's gonna last forever.
Eternity.
You
Yes.
know. Or
I'm sorry, I wasn't
this,
interested in that once, let
no,
alone forever.
y'all just keep popping them babies out because that's your job for
Yep.
eternity.
Yeah, sounds like loads of fun, not. So we're coming up on the near the end here. So Rob, anything else you want to talk more a little bit about your website and such before we go?
Like I said, basically what I want it to be, it's not there yet because like mostly I got spammers, but it's like you can have your own groups. You can post in the activities just like you can on Facebook, and I may even put some games on there. I don't know, but you can instant message on there. There's forums on there, and that'll just about cover any kind of abuse, government abuse, cop abuse, anything. Because unless people start talking about it, like I said, you bury your head in the sand, you leave your ass up in the air, and that's not where I want to be.
Absolutely.
That's not where I want to be. People like you, it's like that expose the truth, especially against the Christians, and like I said, I know a lot of nice Christians, I know a lot of nice Scientologists, for that matter, but, it's like, read the damn Bible, and know the damn Bible. Beth and I have gone against people on radio shows in the chat rooms, because they come up with this one little snippet of a Bible verse. They didn't put the part above or the part below because their minister didn't want them to read that part.
Exactly. My favorite one is when I'm debating a Christian and they're like, you need to read the Bible. I'm like, I did. That's why I'm an atheist. You should read your Bible.
And I know several people in the activist atheist group that were ex-clergy.
Absolutely.
There's quite a few.
Absolutely. I attended the first conference it was called the Non-Conference for Non-Believers in Toronto November 1st. And
That's cool.
The first speaker was a professor who's actually the dean of my alma mater right now, and he is ex-clergy, and he is now the atheist dean of an Anglican church college. I gotta love it.
That's cool.
It is, and
Cool.
he's quite an awesome guy. So they are out there.
And like I said before, I know so many non-religious people that are just the sweetest, that go out of their way to do a kindness a day,
Absolutely. Well,
and not for fear of hell or for a hope of heaven, but just because it's the goddamn right thing to do.
Exactly. And I would like to highlight our friend Cash in that respect. That man is one of the most generous and loving people I have ever met. And he goes out of his way to not only, enable people like us to have a voice, but he gives so much of himself. He pays for people to get FFRF memberships. He encourages other people to do that. He started ReasonCon last year, had a hand in it. He's out there doing everything that he can. He sends, our friend Ashley, a young lady from Oklahoma, never met another atheist. Cash sent her to a conference and she met, the thinking atheist. The man just, his generosity is just beyond measure. And the newest thing he's done is created the Atheist and Secular Support hotline. And it's an 800 number that we have in the Atheists on Air community. And we open that conference call, and anybody who wants to talk to a fellow non-believer, even if they want to get something off their chest, or if they just want somebody who doesn't, want to talk about religion to talk to, it's there. And he's paid for all of this out of his own pocket. I mean, the man is amazing, and he's why we're here. So I know Dave kind of called out Cash the other day, but we want to do it again. Like, Cash, man, you embody what it is to be a humanist and a real human in this world. So thank you.
There are so many of them, especially up in Canada. Canadian atheists are like the coolest.
Thank you.
Frank Flyman is one. And he actually, like, he feeds the hungry, does the whole soup kitchen thing, and like I said, not any hope of heaven or fear of hell, just because it's right, and if people start doing the right thing just because it's right, I think we would see a really wonderful world happen.
Absolutely.
But, as long as people are playing my God's bigger than your God, it's like we're just going to keep going down.
Well, we're doing our best. Absolutely.
We try.
Well, Rob, we're coming up on the end of the night, so thank you so much for joining us. We learned a lot.
Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Absolutely. We learned a lot, and I hope folks out there have learned more about Scientology and other abuses that other organizations have, and that, there are ways that we can put a stop to it. Yeah.
And go to freeworld.com or freeworldproject.com and, sign up and get active and make friends and talk to people about what bugs you, in a positive way.
Absolutely.
Because we, the people, are supposed to be the boss.
That's right. Well, we'll make sure to put links up to your site, and we also encourage anybody, go visit, sign up, give it a try. And the more connections we can make, the better. It doesn't matter where they happen.
On Facebook, my name is Robert Robinson, and just click on the Robert Robinson that lives in Forest Grove, Oregon, and friend me, because I'm not a horrible person.
No, he's not. I can attest to that.
Awesome. All right, folks.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Bye-bye.
We'll wrap it up, and everybody join us next week, and we should have a whiz-banger of a show for you, too. So, everybody, have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next week.
Peace, y'all.